Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through an update of what's happening with the reporting and investments related to ESG and clean technology. Here's a brief bio about myself. I'm a CPA, but I've worked in many different areas of financial reporting, business process changes, including the clean technology area as well as environment and social governance reporting for well over 20 years. Now, this is an interesting slide. I won't spend a lot of time, but I'll just highlight it. That four of the top five stocks listed here tend to be related to technology, whether that's chip manufacturing, chip testing around the equipment, or accounting, transactional, or storage system like what Intuit is. However, what's interesting on here is Xylem, which is a water treatment company that focuses on clean water solutions. They're listed in here. So they're like many companies looking at sustainable practice around water, wastewater management, and clean water drinking. This kind of gives you an idea where we're heading. Now, there's been a lot of pushback around the different accounting standards, especially Sustainability 1 and Sustainability 2 from IFRS, just because of the complexity to move forward with those, and especially with the cost of compliance. So there's a bit around Europe working on simplifying the rules around that area. We look at clean tech energy investment for the first half of the year, it's up 10%. So that's a significant $40 billion more investment, especially in areas where I'm seeing it happen more, which is solar energy, wind, energy storage, EV area as well. Singapore, which is an interesting country because it's a gateway to Asia Pac, where a lot of companies have corporate headquarters for their Asia Pac out of Singapore, so it's interesting where they are. And Net Zero Banking Alliance is basically pause. Again, companies have shareholders are accountable, so they're looking at how best to move forward with a sustainable model, including how they rename or rebrand ESG into more sustainability reporting. And of course, the U.S. is looking at some changes around shareholder proposals as well around ESG. This gives you an idea where we're heading is. In a lot of cases, companies and organizations are making significant traction in their sustainable development goals, and you're seeing here around climate change, education, hunger, food security, inequality in all those areas. There's still movement happening, and organizations continually to pivot around those policies. Venture capital. This is interesting. The reason why I want to pull and highlight this is that countries around the world have are lagging China because China has for years invested heavily in the clean tech area, especially in EV, whether that's vehicles, excuse me, energy storage, wind or solar. They control a lot of the market. So venture capital likes to go in where the market is new players coming in and they have the ability to make market returns. And when the market becomes pretty saturated, then they're kind of looking at how they pivot in that market in terms of allocating the necessary capital. What is next for ESG? You're seeing here that data itself is becoming more and more real time. If you go out to a lot of companies or organizations, especially in smart cities, Atlanta and stuff like that, and I live in the city of Hamilton, they actually make data in real time, like the fire department calls are in real time. So we're starting to see more and more integrating that. Probably they'll run this stuff in processes in a specific time overnight, or maybe they do it periodically in a day. They'll just come up with a thing. It's never a thing where it's real time. It's near real time because there's always a gap when you pull it from a source in terms of the modeling it into a scorecard or a dashboard. Assurance and accountability are critical in terms of driving ESG, and that really comes back to your audit processes and the standards. And you're seeing more and more confidence coming into the risk models around that. And the ability to scale technology. There's a lot of ESG solutions and there's limitations. This lecture isn't about who's the best. It's about understanding what you need to look at in terms of ESG solutions and how you scale them. This gives you an idea in the top ESG solutions, and you're starting to see where Kiva and their IBM's listed, um, Splura and other ones. Again, you're also seeing some of the additional requirements. Like a lot of the focus on the ESG solutions has been on the emission side, but you also need to be cognizant of biodiversity area. You need the realignment and review your HR and human rights policies, especially around the supply chain, as well internally how you're sourcing. Corporate governance models are getting more and more under the microscope. Circular waste management policies are seeing more and more technology coming into how they can do better recycling, reducing their waste down to net zero waste, all that. Facility management's getting into the energy area, lighting and all that, especially with hybrid offices. Organizations are looking at how they position their workforce. In some cases, do they downsize their facilities? And then the last point is I've emphasized this for well over a couple years now. There's more emphasis and probably appetite to align ESG goals with compensation across all levels of management. This gives you an idea where the accounting standards are heading in terms of things. Um, a lot of cases, there's been hesitance from FASB around some of the IFRS, but they'll start to look at more convergence, especially when we need to have clear standards around workforce planning areas, facilities management, social governance, because you want to make sure that what you audit and what the standards are, they're similar, so that everything can be comparison at industry level as well as overall market level. This gives you a bit more insight around the auditors in terms of the assessments and how much the audit processes themselves, mostly what the GRC models are changing, and so does the audit processes as well. This gives you an idea where carbon accounting is one of the complex areas. It's not just at capturing the emissions, but it's also capturing the carbon credit systems, and FASB's come up with a new ruling around that. So this is an evolving of this to bring in more consistency around how we report all aspects of accounting for carbon. This gives you an idea where Canada is heading in terms of greenwashing bills. Europe is looking at more simplifying around their standards. California has been very aggressive in terms of what they're reporting around their emissions in terms of the annual sales of by organizations within California. And then Australia is setting a benchmark in terms of how they're moving forward with ESG reporting, especially in Asia Pac as well as around the world. This gives you an idea of the reporting framework in terms of mandatory and voluntary. Um, we're probably going to see more and more over time, more mandatory reporting. But again, depending on how we simplify it in terms of how we bring it down to the cost of compliance will be the critical path forward. Here's some additional links that I provide for. I look at ESG all the time, like I just did something on Snyder Sustainability because they're the top ranking ESG company by one of the surveys, and that's interesting to read on them. And here's how you can contact me, my email, and I'm open to working with companies of all sizes, shapes, and sizes to help them with adoption ESG and driving the messaging across all platforms. Thank you.